I'm not going to talk about that with you, comic. Not at all.
No, it's fine. We all talk about beards now and again.
Oh, well, I mean, yes, if it's beards all over your body. That, I don't...
Hey, viewers, welcome back.
Hi, guys, and welcome. So this is a special edition of Polar Pass where I decided to pull comic into it. Because why not?
Yeah, and I couldn't pass, or else he would beat me up behind his CVS.
So we're going to be talking about the newest banner that's actually quite exclusive here, the Brides!
Is that Cordelia?
Yep, that is Cordelia on the side.
I married her in a name.
And that's also Lynn and Charlotte in the background, but
Cedeus.
no, and then Cedeus right here, yes, Cedeus. Or Sheeta, whichever you prefer. We're going off the jet.
She doesn't interest me too much.
Alright, so as with always with Polar Pass, we're going to be putting the stats up on the left side of the screen. Comic can't see the left side of the screen because that's post-production.
Yeah, because I lost my left eye in the war.
Yes, it's over, it's gone. He can only see the right. It's kind of like that that man with like half of his face from like Batman, I forget. I couldn't even...
Two-Face.
I couldn't
It's
even...
ironic because he doesn't even have a full face.
I couldn't even tell because, you know, he couldn't even tell that the Two-Face had a problem because, you know, he only has one eye. He just saw the normal
I'm like,
side.
God, why are we talking about this poor man like this?
Alright, so we're going to be starting off with colorless, and colorless, of course, are staff users, bow users, and dagger users, and we only have two colorless today. And
Did they put daily orbs back in yet?
Yes, they did.
Okay, I'm going to
back
redownload the game then.
So the first colorless is actually Lynn here, and...
Bride of the Plains?
Yes. She's actually... She's a healer, of all things, and...
Is she?
Yeah, she's a healer. Oh, well, a staff user.
Very contrary to my FE7 experience so far.
Staff is... staff stats are on the left side. Mostly, we'll talk about stats in a bit when we get down to it, but let's look over...
But she has no Harvest Moon.
Yet. Anyways, her special skill is her Candlelight, which apparently after combat, foe is inflicted with a status preventing the unit from counterattacking.
That sounds busted as shit.
Yeah, that's pretty busted in its own right. We'll get into why she's actually a pretty nice healer to have along. She's not crazy good, but she's pretty good. She has Rehabilitate, which is probably one of the best healing spells in the game, because when someone's really below health, she could full heal them. Like if they're below like 10% health, it goes pretty much to full.
Well, she sounds amazing unless your stats are crap.
And then we have Dazzling Staff, which is basically her staff skill, but in her like basically if unit at level 3 the enemy isn't can't counterattack her at all. That means they'll only hit once, and they can't do anything else. They'll only she's kind of like meant to be this I'm trying to think of the word. She's meant to be a healer that can't really be doubled up on. She can't really be hit too much.
I was saying like a tank in a weird way.
A tanky kind of healer who will probably withstand damage, and we're going to go over some of her pros and cons since we've already gone over her
So
abilities.
a paladin.
In a way, yeah, actually. Her HP is actually pretty substantial. She has 39 in health at max rank. Her attack is not the best, but here's what really matters when it comes to a healer, because chances are you're not going to be getting rid of any Dazzling Staff or anything like that, or her Candlelight, because it's just too good of a weapon. At least I think.
Isn't that like the whole reason to get her too?
Her
so it's
speed,
just having your wife.
Her speed, if you get, if you get IVs in it that are really good, she has 34 speed neutral, which means she won't be doubled up on usually.
Ever.
There are a lot of characters who might be able to branch that, get a little bit further in speed, or you might get a Bane in her. But I would say the pros right now are she has quite a bit of speed, some good health. Her defense and her resistance aren't the best though, so she is a bit frail when it comes to cons. But her weapon and her skills are all very fantastic. And I
was about to say, those skills kind of make up for all the downsides, from the sound of it.
Dazzling Staff I think, is a pretty good ability, and it makes her a really good supporting healer. She's not going to be, no staff user's really that amazing, I hate to say it, but, this lets her shine a little bit more as a staff user. I mean, if you really want her, I'd say go for her. She's definitely a good healer, I think. And then
she'll make a good wife.
Yep, so pros again. Good health, good speed. If you manage to get, a boon in speed, even better. bit frail, and of course her, you know, well, actually we'll talk about cons a little bit later.
So you're generic healer, frail and quick.
Yeah, frail and quick, but also, you know, that special ability from her weapon and her passive are also pretty good. And, you know, it doesn't hurt to maybe chop her up and give her to another healer. That sounds really wrong, but, you know.
Listen, viewers, don't listen to Sages. Do not chop up your wife and put her parts on a new woman. That's not how divorce works.
It is in some countries. Don't worry about it. Anyway.
Don't go to those countries if you're married.
Don't go to those countries. Alright, so let's move on to the next one, which is actually... This is Cordelia, and you can kind of tell...
Perfect bride.
You're
almost right.
I've been leveling her quite a bit, and stats are up on the left side, and we're going to be talking about her quite a bit.
She'd be better if her kid wasn't Severa.
I mean, you're not wrong. One thing that she does have that's interesting to her, of course, she has Cupid's Arrow Plus, which, you know, it's an okay, decent weapon, or as some may say, okay, good weapon. And it's a novelty weapon, but it's a bit better than, like, the Easter event where they were like, oh, it heals for a little bit. This one, like, grants defense and resistance, which is nice. It has decent enough might. I like it. I'm going to be actually changing her to a Brave Bow Plus because of reasons we'll get into in a bit. She also has a very unique skill in Rally, Attack, and Speed, which is something...
That sounds really good.
No other unit has right now.
Oh, well then it's probably amazing.
I mean, there hasn't been a Rally that actually buffs 2 stats at the same time, so that's always a benefit to others. And then there's Death Blow 1 and 2, which I just... brought over, and then of course she also has Escape Route and Breath of Life, which are okay, but I'm going to just, I mean, if we're going to get down to the brass tacks here, I'm going to say Cordelia is probably one of the best archers in the game right now.
Oh.
But there is an asterisk there. It does require some skill inheritance to make her amazing. She, just to give you a comparison, we've talked about her before on this video, but her attack and her speed are the same, at least neutral, at 35 each. That's not including her weapon, which, of course, if you have, like, Brave Bow and things like that, or, you know, with Cupid, the Cupid Arrow, that would be about 47 attack, which is pretty high. And then, you know, you include the speed, which, in comparison to other units, her speed is... I mean, Takumi has a 33 in speed, and he's the premier archer, so, I
like the sound of this one.
And, of course, you know, she is, with skill inheritance, if you put in things like Life and Death, God, I'm trying to think of other things like Desperation or anything like that, she will, and, of course, Brave Bow, which allows her to attack twice right at the start if she initiates the attack. She will do a ton of damage. She is tied for probably the best archer slot with Setsuna, who can be the next inheritance archer. It just means that she has a lot of work. Her stats are phenomenal, and that's her pros, is that her stats are great. She does have a pretty decent stat spread, and her weapon is not bad by any means. You know, a unique rally skill, and her cons are that she's incredibly frail. Her defense and her resistance are not the best. Which is kind of, you know, I don't know if close counter would work, like if you kill Takumi and give it to her, but...
Still, she's a pretty good glass cannon from the sounds of it.
Yeah, she can, and she's also a perfect bride. And, you know how that, I don't understand. She's been stalking me. I have 3 of her now.
But this is Cordelia, not Tharia.
Or Camilla, you know. But... I really do, and I think she's probably the best archer in the game, tied with Setsuna if you do build her correctly. And she can really, I would summon her. I would go for her hardcore.
So just chop up all your wasted level 3 archers and shove them into her, basically.
Yeah, I mean, look at her. I have 4 of her now.
Oh.
I wasn't trying to, but I ended up with them. Alrighty, so... Oh yeah, and I mean, and people really like... You know, there's another pro here. I'm just going to go into that real quick. Wink. She winks.
Ooh, there's my heart.
It still exists. It's there.
Life wasn't worth living until Cordelia came back into it.
I know, right? Anyways. But yeah, I honestly think she's one of the best archers. The only cons are that she does need some skill inheritance, and of course, she is a bit frail. That's the only problems I can really see there. So
She looks sad.
she's also she likes to play, you know, put you on a bit. She's a little bit of a playa, if you know what I mean.
Oh, Jesus, that's not very perfect at all.
She's perfect, but only in your eyes.
She'll throw you aside for Crom at the first glance.
People kept calling me the new Crom because I kept getting her. All right, well, introducing the new Crom, me. All right.
Don't marry Charlotte. She just wants your money.
So now we're moving on to blue, and this is the money maiden, Charlotte.
Don't even hide it.
You know, and I'm just gonna let's go over her art real quick. Her weapon is a spoon.
Okay.
Here it is with cake and frosting.
Man, you're gonna get diabetes.
And here she is licking. Nice.
That'll get those 14-year-olds digging for their parents' wallet.
Oh God! And here
That's more like her.
she's a little mad.
Just a touch.
Again, stats are up on the left side. Comic can't see them because he's weird. But much like
Oh.
he also can't peer into the future. He's not from That's So Raven yet. But
Yeah, I'm not Raven Simone. I'm just never mind.
I'm sad
I'm
now.
Raven Simone.
The one thing that we'll talk about is her weapon, which is oddly similar to Cupid's era. You know, Cupid era.
It's not like it's the same thing.
Yeah, this is kind of like the Easter event where they just every weapon was basically the same thing. So
So if you got one, go for who you want. Instead
Yeah.
of the same thing.
That's
cool.
And then of course she has Smite, which is just she bops someone over to the other side, and then we have Wind Boost, which sounds pretty. I like it. Basically, what happens is if the unit has a certain HP threshold, they gain. You know, comparatively to the other target, they gain +4 speed, +6 speed, or plus, I think, 2 speed, which honestly is pretty good, I think. That makes.
Say that's gonna sounds like double attacks out the wazoo.
I mean, she has a pretty considerable speed, so it's not a bad idea. But the only problem is that it's competing with it's an A slot, so it's competing with a lot of good other A slot abilities.
Oh, I didn't think about.
We'll talk about that a bit later. Threaten attack. It threatens someone's attack. It's
It calls it a smelly.
But outside of that, I mean, her pros are, of course, that she has pretty good health, she has good attack, and fair speed, which is, but for a lance unit, she has, we'll talk.
Oh, the spoon's a lance?
Lance is, yeah, the spoon is a lance. I forgot to mention that.
I thought it would be an axe for some reason.
She is a lance-using unit, and
Interesting.
She does have the other pro, of course, is that she has a unique passive in Wind Boost, which, you know, on her it might not be the best. On other units, it might be really good though. That's mostly because in the cons, well, she has considerable speed, but I don't think she can really make a, exemplary use out of Wind Boost. It might be better to get something else. And also, her defense and her resistance are quite low for a lance unit, but I mean, you get what you pay for.
Sounds like she'll be great for spare parts.
She's actually pretty. Her stats read, and later on, she's actually a pretty good attacker if you do decide to use her. She's not a bad unit at all, but compared to some blue units, you might find her a little bit off-putting, mostly because of her art. I'm only kidding.
Yeah, that is not fighting armor.
Yeah, I know, it's a dress, yet somehow...
It's made out of, like, spider silk or something.
Well, I
rub spiders on yourself.
Don't rub spiders on yourself, guys. Look at that. She's like, cake. Cake!
Yeah, if you get cake in the wound, it'll get infected.
You ruined my cake! Anyways.
You weren't supposed to take a bite!
It's my spoon! But yeah. All in all, I think Charlotte's actually probably the second best unit you can get in this. Or tied second best, probably. The best being Cordelia, of course. Lynn is probably if you really wanted to go with worst, but we'll talk about the other unit that's actually still here. One that people thought was Lucina, but was not. That, of course, is
our
Sheeta.
other blue-haired maiden.
Yep. Talus's bride. Or is that Talius?
Yeah, boys, let's go look it up.
And she has a bouquet, and she's ready to go. And, of course, the stat spread is on the left side for you who want to look into that, and we'll go over the pros and cons in a little bit. So, let's talk about this, shall we?
I think it's Talus.
Talus, okay. Alrighty. So she has Blessed Bouquet, which if you are familiar with First Bite or Cupid Arrow, it's basically the same thing. It just has a little less might than those, mostly because she's a tome user. Chilling Wind and Iceberg is mostly because of her resistance. Her resistance is actually pretty good.
Nice.
And of course, she also has Resistance Plus, and then Attack and Resistance Plus. So, and then Hone Speed 1, 2, and 3, which are decent enough abilities, I think. She also
that sounds a lot less fun than the other ones.
Yeah, she's a little bit, you know, she has unique passives in her own right. One thing that she does have, at least we're gonna go into pros and cons right now, is, well, her speed is phenomenal. If you actually get with a good boon, you know, in speed, she will have a natural 40 in speed, which is insane. She also has decent enough resistance. That means Iceberg can trigger and do quite a bit of damage if you do use it. The only adverse, unfortunately, is that she is incredibly frail, and her attack is not as much as it could be to be desired. That doesn't mean that it's terrible. She's actually a very good blue unit, at least tome unit. She's not going to be able to compare to Lind, who is like the end-all be-all blue unit for tome users, but she can put up a pretty good fight, I think. Her speed means she'll never be doubled. She has good enough resistance, and if you build her correctly, she can do really, really well. So, that's about all for the Bride units. What do you think?
I like him.
I mean,
it's good to see Cordelia is the best still.
Yep. Well, you know,
makes my awakening self very happy.
She's meant to be that. I don't know how she's so fast in her. You know, I don't know how both Sheeta, Charlotte, and Cordelia are. Actually, all of them are built around, you know, speed. Traditionally, though, I mean, at least from Awakening, I don't remember if they were in Fates or not, the Bride units, you know, but they were really overpowered in Awakening, if I recall correctly, like Bride units in general.
I never got into like the huge like stat boosting things and like.
Well, I just remember.
Awakening.
Well, I just remember Brides had like all the weapons and things like that. But I will strongly just tell you guys, if you really want some good units, I strongly suggest at least trying for these ones. Not only because they are rare, because once this is over with, they will not be in the game anymore. You know, you won't be able to get them from summoning. And two, they're also very good units just as units. I mean, Cordelia will do a lot of damage, Sheeta will outspeed a lot of her opponents, Charlotte will do really well, and of course, as a healer who can be a bit of a tank in her own right, you know, not by just sheer force of defense, but because she has, you know, kind of a unique ability, Lynn is not bad either. I think
that sounds a lot better than the Easter banner.
Yeah, the Easter banner had a lot of problems, you know, like, just like, I think the only two that were good out of those ones were Camilla and Lucina. And
of course, they made Camilla wonderful.
Comics is a little sicky poo. Sorry, Comic.
Yeah, Comic's throat was destroyed by his new AC.
So anyways, that's about it for Puller Pass this time. Thanks for joining me, Comic. Do you have anything to say before we leave?
Cordelia, I love you, but we only have one daughter and her name is Morgan.
Oh. Now I'm like sad.
And Severa, fuck it. Can't be clever right now. It's too much for me.
Alrighty. Catch you guys later.